Welcome to Extra Bases with Bristol and Booth. Jason Bristol, Jeremy Booth. Again, Jeremy and I breaking every podcast rule in the books. Oh, make sure you're on a consistent schedule. Nope. Make sure you do this. Nope. Make sure you do that. Nope. I was on vacation. You're in Nashville right now.
I'm in Nashville sitting in the Airbnb in one of the guest rooms because making sure we have some time without Bernie. Bernie's downstairs chilling. I got the new dog Nala I got. She's downstairs with him, so she's doing that. I'm just I'm up here quiet, got some time. You know, we haven't done this in a while. So one of us has been traveling the world. This time it's not me. So you've been bouncing around, you know.
Yeah, I was in the Mediterranean, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm up here at you know, Nashville's great, you know, 85 degrees, 90 degrees. And, you know, it's nice to, as much as I love Houston, Texas, it's 165 right now walking around in the shade. So I'm not upset about this 90 over here.
So one thing that really jumped out at me, which has happened in the last week, is you look at what has happened in New York with the Mets. Although I do give their owner, Steve Cohen, some credit. You know, he as promised, had a news conference, if you will, to talk about everything which has gone on, which is not good. They're like 8.5 back, obviously, of the final playoff spot in the National League.
Yeah, I was going to say they're 15 back or something like that after.
Yeah, so that, but certainly. And the way people are looking at things here in Houston is wild card right now because the Rangers have a considerable lead. Of course, those two teams, the Astros and Rangers, getting ready for a big weekend series. But Steve Cohen said he has no plans to remove Billy Epler or Buck Showalter, and said this, if you want to attract good people to this organization, the worst thing you can do is be impulsive and win the headline for the day. You're not going to attract the best talent. You're not going to want to work with somebody who has a short fuse. I know fans want something to happen. I get it, but sometimes you can't do it because you have long-term objectives. And listen, I give that guy a lot of credit because, listen, we all know New York's history and a certain owner who ran the team that wears pinstripes, and that was the way it worked. But I think history shows that you have to be patient. Look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and the number of coaches that they've had over the past 30, 40, 50 years. And I give Steve Cohen a lot of credit that in the face of the biggest fishbowl in all of the United States and baseball and sports, he's saying, do I dare say pump the brakes, Jeremy? He's saying pump the brakes. There's the sound effect. Nice. Yes.
You know, I'll say this, and I would never have said this before the last 7 years of running my own organization, if you will, that has obviously expanded greatly, you know, with all ex-pros, you know, players, coaches, scouts, just all ex-pro guys. I can tell you this, or pro guys, I can tell you this. You want to be patient, but there comes a time where you just got to do what you're asked, right? You got to find a way to produce and have results. And if you know, a year and a half into Billy Epler and Bo Showalter or whatever it's, or Buck Showalter, whatever it's been, that's not enough time. It's just not enough time. They got to get on the same page, and they got to have some more time to go through it. And, you know, if you're a GM, you need about 7 years to get it right. I've always said that 3 years isn't enough because, you know, traditionally your first year, you're evaluating who's already there. Your second year, you got to, you know, make up some changes. By the time you get to year 4, it's finally moving the way you want. Most of these GM contracts are 5 years in. That's it. And then all the 5 years you didn't win, you're out. That's why they all move so fast, right? You need to give them 7 because you need to have years 4, 5, and 6 to see where it's really at. And by year 7, you know what you got. Right. That's why I say it's 7 years. It's no different in business. Year 7, with what we're doing here, we finally have it going the way we want it to go. There's still, as an example, 7 years later, people who are doing things that necessarily aren't in line with direction, and you have to bring that together and find a way to be productive and move forward. But I can tell you from experience, and you say it how you want, that gets pretty old. It gets old having to do that again and again. That's why people change. Now, that said, once again, Cohen is absolutely doing the right thing, taking his time with Epler and taking his time with Showalter and allowing this to play out. The Mets are underachieving. I think that's just, might be the understatement of the year. The Mets are underachieving when everybody was willing to hand them the division and the World Series at the start of the year based on the things they had done. But if you look at it, they're mirroring the Yankees a little bit, which is where Billy Epler cut his teeth over there, was with the Yankees. They're mirroring what the Yankees used to do with the guy in pinstripes, as you said. They're just buying talent and they're bringing it in. It's not really working out. Their player development has not been good for a long time. Their scouting department's been pretty good, especially at the top of the draft. Maybe not so much depth overall, but the top of the draft, they've done well. Tommy Candace first, and then Mark Tremuta, and now, Drew Toussaint, who's in his first year, but they've done a good job. The cross-check crew and some of the area guys done a good job with certain levels of talent. So, trying to get that going is going to take a minute. And of course, they had the GM debacle. They had Sandy Alderson there, who then turned around and brought in, was it Jared Porter, right? And then Zach Scott. And so they're just finally getting some stability right now. You're finally getting it. I know Steve Cohen said he promised a championship in 5 years. It's just not realistic. They got to go out and play it through. They have to develop the organizational culture. He's doing the right thing.
In my line of work, I think 3 years is what everywhere I've been, I've felt that you really need 3 years to fully get a grasp on what's going on. It's a little different than obviously in baseball, but when you move from television market to television market, as we often do in my line of work, I've always felt that that first year, your head's spinning. The second year, okay, I'm starting to know the players and the people around, and by that third year, I've always felt that was when you were, okay, I've got it. I mean, yes, you're always still learning, but in terms of like having a full grasp of what's going on and the cycles of things, I've always felt that 3 years was really a key transition period in the line of a television news anchor. But speaking of transition, you've got the Astros right now from 2022 World Series champs to what we're seeing now. Are those now I don't have you on speaker. Now I have you. So are you just tired? I see you shaking your head. Is it are you tired, or is it the 2023 Astros, or is it all the stuff that's been going around these 2023 Astros? Because yeah, I know what it is now. So when I did this research, Jeremy, after 80 games, the Astros are 43-37. Okay. And I'll put this up right here. How does that compare to past World Series winners? Well, it's really similar, actually, but it's not encouraging. 7 of the past 10. Now, when I say 10, I did not include the 2020 COVID season, because the Washington Nationals, 2019 champions, they didn't have a 162 game season, so I threw them out. But 7 of the past 10 were 43-37 or worse. So that's 70%. We're playing like the Astros or worse at this point of the season. 5 of those 7 failed to make the playoffs. Only 2 of those 7 advanced to the league championship series, that being the Cardinals in 2013. No, the 2012 Cardinals and the 2017 Cubs. Both of those teams, World Series winners from the year before, were able to make it to their league championship series. So certainly Astros fans very spoiled making it to 6 straight World League Championship Series. But what we're seeing right now is kind of average for what you get for a past World Series team and World Series winner, but it's not encouraging. And the good thing is they've got 80-something games to go. And it's not like a World Series hangover. A lot of it is injuries and subpar performances. But I looked at those numbers, Jeremy, and I think it kind of backs up what the eye test tells you that at this point, the Astros are definitely, in my opinion, not a World Series team at this point. And playoffs, that's going to be tough too. It's really going to be tough unless they make some moves and these guys get healthy, the key guys that they need to have back. How does this feel for you with these numbers? I mean, are you surprised by them?
I think you said a couple of things. I think I want to answer. There's a lot to this. Just there's a lot that I've been chewing on and waiting for us to get back. From you to get back from the cruises and the ruins, and all the new ballot stores in other countries. I mean, I'm waiting for all that. So
The
I
cruises, the ruins, the Mediterranean. Yes,
I think you said the Nationals in 2019. You meant the Dodgers in 2020, right? I just want to make sure I followed that.
No. I meant, so I did not use the Nationals in 2020.
The Dodgers in 2020.
No, what I'm saying is the Nationals won in 2019. I had to
Correct.
throw their record out in 2020 because
I got you. I follow.
We're looking at the next year.
All right. So the next year. Okay. So now that's why I was listening. I was dialing in. You know what that is? That's our communication after you being and spending time in other languages and countries and tanning up and all that stuff. That's what that is. A lot of
people spoke English, but I understand what you're saying.
All right. So just to kind of dive into that. I guess I'm going to try to sum up a lot of what was there, and I'm going to go into a few different areas to do it. And I'm prefacing that because I'm going to stay with me here. The Astros had a chance to absolutely not be where they sit right now. They had several opportunities. They made some very questionable decisions in their front office personnel, more to the point of the timing of that. Okay. And again, any general manager, I don't care if it was Pepe Le Pew that you hire as a general manager, could have done a better job in December, right? Or even the beginning of January, before all the opportunities for free agency ran out, to rely on Lance McCullers. I'm going to stop for a second because I want to be crystal clear before I go into this. Let me stretch. Let me get loose for this. Okay. I think we can say I don't need any help communicating. Is that fair? I'm just going to come. I'm direct. If I say something, one of the most disgusting things to me, and I'm using that word for a reason, is to twist words to fit a different narrative. So when you hear this and listen to what I'm about to say, don't read anything into it, whoever you are out there that's watching it, because I'm going to just tell you direct. I'm the guy on tarmac with the. I'm coming right at you here. Okay, so here's what we got. The Astros had a chance to address all this. They hire a general manager, anybody in December, November. First of all, should have been James Click, who earned an opportunity to stay. I think everybody in the game would say that. Okay, now it didn't work, and that's okay. Things happen and move on. But when you have that opportunity to not hire a GM, and I struggle to say this, but there's a situation that happened like in Houston that was happening in Baltimore before. And it just, Brady Anderson in Baltimore, that we all know that story didn't go real well. For those of you that don't know that story, Brady had a lot of say, and Brady didn't make a lot of decisions that were proper. And while I'm not comparing any one person or even the collection to that, what I'm saying is all this could have been avoided with still the good years of a couple of players or a few players on this club to be had by having somebody make decisions. You rely on Lance McCullers as a starting pitcher, and you are making a critical error. You rely on Lance McCullers to throw more than 110 innings at a max, and you're making a critical error. If you rely on Martin Maldonado to hit 260 magically with 18 home runs, you're making a critical error. If you misevaluate a young catcher, which we'll kind of come back to this for just in a second, if you misevaluate a young catcher and call him a star, and he's not, and you decide to not go get catching depth like a Tucker Barnhart or a Dom Nunez or any number of guys that were out there at that time, just some extra help and depth somewhere that you can sign as a free agent, you are making a critical error. And if you ever, and I do mean ever, Lance McCullers notwithstanding, enter a season with 6 starters, 6 guys that can start, one of which, good, bad, or otherwise, is still a very much unproven rookie, then you are making a critical error. If you allow a player who can play in the middle of the diamond, who has provided some depth and can play the outfield as well, to go to a division rival as poorly as a division rival is playing, you are making a critical error. And so those 4 or 5 different errors add up to what you see. Now, what it is, it's a testament to how talented the Astros actually are to be able to go ahead and still be above 500 in this position. And I'm going to say that again. Let me say that again for emphasis, because I don't want people, just rent. The Astros is a testament to how talented the Astros players actually are to still be above 500 in a position where they're not out of it. They're very much in the race, can still get to the postseason with all they've dealt with. Can you decide that, guys are going to go down with Tommy John or miss 60 days or 90 days, or that, McCullers is going to blow up again? No, you probably don't know all that stuff. I mean, you might have had an idea that McCullers is going to blow up at some point, because that happens all the time. But everybody else, you don't know that. Alex Bregman, and I'm just going to say this, Bregman plays with a lot of heart and a lot of compete and never goes away. In my mind, he has days he feels really good just by watching, and then days he doesn't. He'll never say that because he's a pro. But he has days that he's out there, I'm like, all right, he's there. And then he's days when he doesn't, and it's physical. He hasn't really been the same since he got dinged. He just really hasn't. And he's worked his way back, and he's fought, and he hasn't missed a whole lot of time, and he stayed on the field. With Yordan Alvarez, I got questions now. Not that he can hit, not that he's prolific, not that he hits left-handers better than right-handers, and that if you bring in somebody throwing 97 from the left side in the World Series, he's going to hit it 14 rows back. I believe all of those things. I'm concerned about the durability. There's always something going on. And regardless of what it is, one of the things that we talked about beforehand when Jeff Bagwell said, we wanted to play half the games in left field, was that is a bad idea. And I think I said it on our show. I said, that's a bad idea. You don't put a guy out there who's injury prone in the first place, who is working his body to come back and be as effective as he can offensively, out in left field because he says he wants to play it. You do what's best for the ball club. Okay, I don't think these guys did that. I think Dana Brown has come in and he's properly assessed a few things. Number one is that Yainer Diaz is better than Corey Lee. Okay, and I don't know. Stop me for a second. Again, if you know a certain analyst who might have said Yainer Diaz can catch, Yainer Diaz can hit, and Corey Lee was overdrafted. It was probably a 3rd-round pick and needed to go somewhere else and was sitting down to Sugarland as trade bait. Okay, I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know who that could have been. But bottom line is, if somebody did it and it was out there, you had a chance to go get before he got hurt a guy like Wade Miley, who was throwing the ball really well, didn't do it. So there's just some bad decisions on the front office side and some over loyalty on Dusty's side to players. Unfortunately, you want to be in a position where you're able to compete, and you have to distance yourself a little bit emotionally in these situations, because if you get involved in their lives too much, doesn't mean you don't care, doesn't mean you don't show them some love, doesn't mean don't be sensitive to it, but it's a professional sports, and I'm quite certain all these guys know that. Okay, you have a duty to win, so those things weren't done right. Additionally, and I scouted this guy, and I'm only bringing this up for emphasis. There's a player named Anthony Rendon, who was one of my best reports ever, who I think the world of as a player. He hasn't been durable, but I think the world of this guy. In Oakland, where they have 11 fans a night, and I'm saying that for a reason, just like that, in Oakland, where they have that few fans a night, somebody called Anthony Rendon a pretty serious name, and Anthony Rendon in the stands went after him. If you don't think that the antagonizing that goes on from some of the Houston fan base, and some of the Houston, for no other reason, we'll call them media. Okay, and I'm not talking about MLB.com writers, and I'm not talking about people that write for newspapers or publications. Now, I'm talking about people that run their mouths on purpose. Okay, if you don't think that stuff hears it because you're the one out there and you know what it's like to play in front of 50,000 people. I don't know what it's like to play in the big leagues. I have no idea. I have no idea what it's like to step foot in this. I know what it's like to be in a stadium, scout, and be responsible for that stuff, but I don't know what it's like to set foot on a major league field in the postseason. Those guys do. And so when it comes time to do that, I have enough sense to not try to antagonize what they're going through when they're injured, when they got stuff at home with kids, when they have family going on, when I'm so sensitive because there was something that happened 6 years ago that most of the guys on this team weren't even part of. And so we're going to go out there, we're going to pick on fan bases, and we're going to say good morning to everybody but Jesus Christ, and we're going to do all these things. And I'm always saying that because it's so juvenile to do that. It is absolutely juvenile. And then what's scary, what's a little bit, what's the word? Ooh, I don't know. Jason, I need a thesaurus. Just 1 second. Let me look through my, I don't know, cowardly is to not want to have to stand up face to face and deal with that. And what I've been saying to you is, in emphasis, this club is battling its ass off. And if you're a fan and you're supportive, then you allow this club to be this club, and you take care of your teammate, your team. You do what Houston does well, and that is pull for them, and be love your players more than pretty much any other city I've been a part of that does that. These fans are really great when it comes to their own guys. They need to apply it better. But you hear things, you see things like people say, oh, I encouraged the Astros players to get hit. No, I didn't. That's like taking you would never do that. What I said is the 2017 team the game was gonna police itself. What's that pitcher with the White Sox? Was it Kenyon Middleton? Is that who that was? Is that name right? I think he's out to lunch. I don't know why he's still dealing with it, but the bottom line is he didn't forget. And the game's going to deal with it. It doesn't mean that you wish harm on anybody. When it comes to some of the comparisons, there's a certain player that the Guardians have right now in the big leagues named Noah Bo Naylor, and he's a star. He's going to be a star.
Yes, he is, and you were all over him from the beginning.
And you have other fans who, I don't remember this guy's name to save my life. I just remember I blocked him and went to sleep whenever it was years ago. I didn't care. Argue because you're just so blind to what's going on and what's out there. You're not helping. You're not helping. You got to be part of an intelligent situation. You got to tell the truth. You got to be able to keep things separate. And if you really are a fan and somebody that's baseball knowledgeable, you have a balance of emotion and a balance of brain. And those two things always go together. So that's all I'm going to say about some of the stuff that's been flying around that I dealt with about a month ago, because to be honest with you, I didn't really care. I cared for half a second. That's not true. I didn't care after that. You know why I cared? Because it was annoying. That's why I cared. It was irritating. It was like, you guys are, how old are you? 6? What are you doing? Let's move on here. Let's be some adults. And the end of the day, this Astros team's fighting hard. They're still very talented. I think relying on Michael Brantley and relying on some guys to be on the field, I've been in the field a long time, is a fool's errand. Could happen. I think it's a fool's errand, and I hope this club finds a way to get what they need to get to move forward, because this team should be doing better than it is, and a couple of front office moves, and that happens.
And there was some talk about your sources, quote unquote sources.
Yeah, I'm not going to give up.
No, I'm not. No. What I'm saying is they were good sources. So that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. They're good sources.
Yeah, let me say this. I will say this. There are pictures of me out there. To think that people don't change uniforms, change teams, and that all my time in the game, I have no connections. No one said I was, how'd it go, an Astros insider. I don't care enough about these guys' lives to do that. It's never what we've said. Matter of fact, I have a respect level to understand they have their own lives and their own focus and their own. But to think I don't get any information would be ludicrous.
Yeah, and you listen. You said it makes their job a little harder. That's all it was, and I can't believe it got blown out of proportion. Like, yes, these guys have been dealing with a ton of crap on the road, and basically you're just saying they don't need anything else. Like, don't try and add to it. That's all it was. And I can't believe that it got blown out of proportion, that like these guys, I will say there was one person who I felt like had a really good and I don't want to say adult, but who was like the adult in the room. And I wish I had it in front of me, the person's name, but they basically said, it's interesting that maybe it's interesting that the Astros don't lean into that villain type role, but I would argue, and I thought that was a very interesting, but these guys, that team, they're good guys on that team, right? Like they're good guys. Like,
I think the culture is completely different. I think these guys
yeah,
have grown up and they've done well. You know, two of the things that I thought were accurate, I'm going to mention this guy's name, or one thing was accurate, was that Ben somebody,
Ben Dubose.
thank you. He said, you know, that my market isn't necessarily Houston. I just have to live in Houston. Well, I don't know if I look at myself as having a market, man. I get on here with you. We talk baseball. We talk Astros. We talk the league. My focus is the Houston Astros, but I live in Houston. I have for 15 years. That much is accurate. We talk about the entire stuff, and I do stuff outside of Houston. A couple other people really kind of spurred on, or not, although not directly said, by what would we call this guy? Howard Stern wannabe? I don't know what we call him. You know, this other guy. You know, I don't know what we would say. What we'd call, the guy on the radio. You know, to insinuate that I don't care about a city I've lived in for 15, 16 years just because I'm honest and tell the truth is ridiculous. Here's what I will say, and Jason, you know this, and I haven't said this to lots of places, but I have Space City tattooed on my tricep. Okay. You don't put something on your body like that unless you love the city that you live in, you care about the people that are around, people being good to you, but telling the truth and doing my job, which is to analyze baseball. And by the way, I'm going to go ahead and stand on that record as well. I think I've done an okay job in the time we've been doing this. To insinuate that all of a sudden I don't care about the city doesn't warrant a response. What I will tell you is that it is right here.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Jeremy. We pay you to, you're on with us because you're impartial. You tell it like it is. That's why we have. I don't want somebody that's going to be apologetic for the Astros every game or every day or every issue. Like that's why we have you. So it's not like I don't need you to have.
I couldn't do that. It was to insinuate. To say that I haven't made that city my home, or that I don't care about the people in it, or that I don't honor the city because I give an impartial opinion that is direct, and to see some of the stuff that was thrown at me to intentionally try to damage me a little bit after that was out of line. And it's not
Twitter,
so much
man. They're just
I just look at myself as an adult. I look at myself as somebody who can have a conversation, and there's two ways it can go. You can yell and scream at each other, or you can ignore it. I chose to just ignore it, and I blocked everybody that did it.
I did find that tweet. Is Jerry still champs 23? I see no issue with leaning into the villain role. It's actually a lot more upside to it, branding and even business wise. And that was, an interesting and well-written take. These guys, the culture in that clubhouse, they're not villains. Dusty Baker is not a villain. Dusty Baker, Jose Altuve, Bregman, Pena, these guys are not Ryan Stanek. They're not villains. They're just that's not them as people. You know what I mean? That's just not the way it's not the way they're built.
Here's one. You got one, the Bach call in LA. Okay. Bach, not a Bach, not a Bach. Ryan Stanek's emotion, that's about winning. That's what that is. It's about winning. It's all he cares about is coming together and living in his role and doing what he can to help that club win. Those guys in that clubhouse, they have done an excellent job since the departure of those who allowed that to happen or encouraged the past culture to be there, which, Jason, we discussed at length more than anybody in the country. That I will say. We did that more than anybody in the country. We talked about their drafts. We've been right. We've talked about their culture. We've been right. We've talked about the positives. Give them credit. We've talked about when they should throw guys and how. We've done all of that stuff. And I think our sports team at KHOU has been excellent when it comes to nailing this stuff down. So in my view, I'm gonna be impartial. I'm gonna tell the truth. These guys don't deserve any of the anger that's being thrown at them this way. Like Plaschke's article out there in LA was garbage. You don't do that. This is a different team. Move on. What are you doing with that? Okay. So let this team live. Let them breathe. Let them go play. Support your club. Hopefully, there's a chance to make some moves before they go. Understand we're all in the city of Houston together, pulling for the Astros to be the best versions of themselves they can be, and no one wants to see them lose. Matter of fact, it was an excellent moment in 22 to watch them win. And in my mind, we said this: leave the ghosts of 17 behind, because no one can say anything about 22. Nobody.
But,
And
well,
that's huh?
No, I was just saying, for anyone to feel that this team is unbothered by this stuff and all the venom on the road, and that they thrive, and this is what they no, they are really, really, really good at baseball. That is like the frosting on this cake. They are really, really good at baseball. It is the cake, and that's why that they've been able to rise above all this. They're
I don't know.
They're a championship team.
It has been really
baffling to me.
Yeah, but the word I was going to say is it's been a privilege for this city to watch people grow up in front of their eyes and to go through a golden era of baseball. It's terrible to tarnish it by gloating and throwing things in people's faces constantly because you're upset about something that happened 6 years ago and isn't going to go away.
Yeah,
let it happen. Be who you are and just let it go.
Well, once again, we now have 1 minute to go in this podcast, and hey, we didn't get to all the other stuff that I wanted to talk about. So, I guess next week, yes.
Yeah, next week for sure. I actually will be before the All-Star game. I will be in Houston. Between the time that I do the All-Star game and the end of the event here. So maybe we'll do one there live.
All right, everybody. For Jeremy, I'm Jason. Thanks for listening to Extra Bases and the Extra Bases podcast. There's Jeremy smiling. So that is it for us here on Extra Bases. Till next time, talk to you later.